Hello, we are live. I am Dr.sult, a medical doctor and functional medicine practitioner.
I'm Elizabeth, a registered nurse and whole life coach.
And this is Just Be Well, the channel about whole life living. And we have been going through our Rebalance to Heal program. And that is really a limbic system retraining program. The limbic system is this major switchboard deep in the brain, and it takes inputs from the cerebral cortex, the cognitive aspects, the sensory inputs, memory, emotion, and it really influences your immune system, your nervous system, your hormone system, your autonomic nervous system, your circadian rhythms, emotions, really all of it. And because it's a switchboard, when it is chronically in one state, the brain creates shortcuts. It creates neural pathways. And functionally, it gets these switches stuck. And so these stuck switches can actually impair immunity, impair your autonomic nervous system, impair your circadian rhythms. And that's why people who are chronically unwell often don't sleep well. They're often on a hair trigger in terms of jumping into fight or flight and all kinds of things. And so today we're talking about step 2. We talked about step 1 last week, and that was some nutritional interventions. And this week we're talking about heart rate variability. So you actually did a heart rate variability session this morning.
I did one this morning. I'm going to admit it's been a while since I've used mine, but I thought, it's kind of been on my mind that I should start practicing with it again. So I did get it out this morning and used it for 11 minutes.
Okay. And hi, Fran.
Hi, Fran. Good morning.
Good morning. And how did that session go?
It went really great.
Good.
Yeah. Yep, it went really great.
So what is heart rate variability measuring, and what does it do?
It measures the variability of the beat to beat. So, it's obviously very small, but it gives you a lot of information back. And when you use the device, what you basically do is you try to sync your breath with your heart. So it's really about envisioning, your chest rising and falling with each breath, and really your breath coming out of that heart-centered space. And then along with that, just really putting yourself into a peaceful place. So thinking of something peaceful. Luckily, I can just look out the window, and I love trees, so I can see the trees, and I actually happened to see a bald eagle too as I was doing it this morning. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So heart rate variability is, as Elizabeth said, is measuring that beat-to-beat variability. So the millisecond variability of your heartbeat changes. And that is actually a direct measure of the autonomic nervous system influence on your heart. So this, there's many ways to do biofeedback. Probably a great way would be to put electrodes on your head, and we do that in the office with neurobiofeedback. But that's a little bit expensive and cumbersome to use at home, and heart rate variability is a very, very close approximation of that. So heart rate variability is measuring your autonomic nervous system state. And, one of the things monks as an example, they struggle for years to get into this coherent state. Because if you don't know if you're there, how do you know if it's your inner critic or your inner healer that is really talking to you, right? So this is a way of verifying that you're not just beating yourself up, but that your healer is actually trying to take you to the right place. So heart rate variability brings you into this coherence state, and that has been shown to have a whole bunch of positive effects. Did you read about any of that stuff over the week?
Yeah, I did. I've dived a little bit more into that. And, it's all about we think of our mind as, you're always saying our mind is our most powerful organ.
And which may not be true.
It's actually your heart is like hundreds of thousands more times powerful.
In terms of its electromagnetic
Yes.
signal.
Of what it's putting out. So I always think of what you put out, it's kind of like, attraction is kind of what you get back, is what you see.
Yeah, so
So it's very powerful.
and there's actually more physiological information coming from the heart and going to the brain than there is from the brain to the heart. So not only is this electromagnetic field that the heart creates thousands of times greater than the electromagnetic field of the brain, the amount of physiological information that comes from the heart is greater towards the brain than it is from the brain to the heart. So there's a lot more going on than just the heart's a pump.
Yeah, and it also has to do with that, that instinct, that knowing. A lot of that comes from the heart, and our mind, interferes a lot. Our mind is a great tool, but it's not meant to run our lives. And for a lot of us right now, it's running our lives. So the M-Wave device that I used this morning is a great way to, it helps you focus on your breathing, which in turn helps you to silence all those thoughts in your mind, because you're really trying to focus and do this at the same time. You're trying to really emphasize that heart feeling, and being centered with your heart.
Exactly. And, one of the things that heart rate variability can do is amplify your intuition. And, we're from the Western culture, so we think about logic. But the truth is, when you really study innovation, it's intuition and inspiration, and then logic is used to justify it. And this has been shown in studies time and time again. This is not just me talking. So increasing inspiration, increasing intuition helps us discern. So for many of us, we're guided by fear. And especially those of us who have suffered chronic illness, fear kind of takes over. And the fear voice is much louder than the intuition voice. But if we can amplify our intuition, we can quiet the fear voice. And that fear voice is what drives us into fight or flight, what causes the switches in the limbic system to become stuck open so that they don't do their job properly. And by doing their job properly, I mean that the limbic system is helping to maintain your immune system in not just a full go all the time. Full go all the time leads to autoimmunity and unmitigated inflammation and all kinds of bad things. But turning these switches on and off is what keeps everything in balance. And so if your circadian rhythms are bad and you can't sleep, which is like everybody with chronic disease, or if you just have runaway inflammation, which is everybody with chronic disease, that's all evidence that your limbic system is really out of balance. And this heart rate variability is the second of our 6-step process to regain balance in this limbic system, this Rebalance to Heal program. So, how does it work? Functionally, what do you do with this gizmo?
Once you get it hooked up to your computer, I like to hook it up to my computer because then I can exactly see what's going on. You can see what your coherence is at the moment. You can see what your heart rate variability is. It has a nice waveform for you. It shows you the inhalation, the exhalation with each breath. So that takes you just a few minutes to get it set up in your computer. You go to HeartMath and get your device registered.
And they step you through it, step at a time, pretty straightforward.
Yep, and then once you sit down, it's really easy. You hit the play button. So it's not like you have to figure out how to do
Clip it to your ear.
Yeah, there is an ear clip, and you can use the finger. There's also a sensor on the device for your finger, but I encourage you to use the ear clip just because then you're not having to hold your hand down the whole time. You can relax more, you can sit back, and then you just have that clip to your ear. And it's actually a little more accurate too, I think.
Yep, so it's measuring your heart to heart, or your beat to beat heart rate variability, and then doing a bunch of computations. And so what she's talking about is the program is really 20 minutes twice a day, and then check-ins multiple times a day. So for the 20-minute twice a day, it's nice to put the little clip on your ear, have your computer up, and it stores all that data, and so you can see your progress over time.
And you can even journal, make a journal entry with each one, like how are you feeling? How did you feel during the session, after the session?
Yep, right in the software, so it's all in one place. And then, but throughout the day, you can carry just the little device. You didn't happen to bring the device out here. It's like half the size of a
Right there,
iPhone.
grab it.
Why don't you go grab it?
I'll grab it quick.
So you can just carry this device, and it also operates totally autonomously. It's got little lights on it. We'll show you in a minute, but you can just put your thumb on the little sensor that's actually on the device, so you don't have to have a wire connected to your ear while you're walking around. And every once in a while, you just pull it out of your pocket or pull it out of your purse or whatever, and put your thumb on it and just let it run. And here comes the device. So let me borrow that thing from you. Thanks. So it looks like this. It's just a little handheld device. Down here, there's a charging port and a place for the thing that comes to meet your ear, and then you just turn it on by pushing this button, and eventually it turns on if you do it right. Here it goes, makes a little ding-dong noise, and you can see it's the lights that's it getting ready to go. And then this is the sensor, so you can put your thumb on that sensor. This part right here is the sensor. And then right now I should be red because I'm talking and carrying on like a crazy person, so let's just see. It's still measuring so this little red, I can't really turn that, maybe if I do my finger like that. So now it's red. That means I'm in bad coherence because I'm trying to be on TV and think about what I'm going to say and all these things. But now it's blue. So blue means that you have moderate coherence. Now it's back to red. So if I try to relax, maybe it'll turn back to blue. And then, of course, green is the color we're really looking for. And then this blue thing going up and down, I'm supposed to inhale and exhale, and then inhale and exhale. And that actually is will depend on your level of coherence. The device knows that if you're red, you're probably needing to breathe a little faster. And then as I get to blue, it will slow down. And as if I get to green, it will slow down even more. It's just that simple. It's just a little device like this, but very, very powerful when you connect it to your computer. And even when you don't connect it to your computer, if you just use it just like this, it's still very powerful. And it looks like you have a graph from this morning.
I actually took a picture this morning. So this is kind of what you see on the screen.
So this is bad coherence, moderate coherence, and really good coherence. And notice how she's just super good coherent. This is her graph. Those kind of up and down sawtooths are really good.
Yeah, and that's the coherent graph right there, the green one on the bottom.
Yep.
So yeah, that high spike was right before I saw the eagle.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So why this 6-step program? Because we're trying to actually heal, right? You can just take Valium and it'll help, right? But unfortunately, taking Valium or any of the other benzodiazepines or antidepressants or any of that stuff, it's just a Dutch boy and his finger in the dike, right? It's just a finger in the dike. It doesn't fix the dike. This is the second step. The first step is some herbs that help get you out of that sort of permanent fight or flight situation.
Makes this a little easier to do.
Makes this easier to use because the truth is when you're being chased by saber-toothed tigers, that's not the time to sit down and close your eyes, right? Physiologically, that makes no sense. So your body just isn't wired to sit down when it's being chased by saber-toothed tigers from a physiological point of view. So we get you out of fight or flight a little bit with herbs. Then we train you to understand the difference and what it feels like to be out of fight or flight with this. Then we talk about a sensory soothing kit, which we've talked about in the past. That's an object or an idea for each of your senses to calm you when you start to feel like you're floating out of control. And then we have this fifth, or the fifth thing would be diet and lifestyle. Once you're out of fight or flight, and once you can kind of think about more than just a fire that needs to be put out right now, we start to talk more about a bigger lifestyle picture, right? And embracing and learning to love a healthy lifestyle. And then that gives you plenty of time to get good at this. So the real key here is to get kind of expert at being in good coherence. And once you're expert at good coherence, then we go into what we call insight training, which is borrowed from mystic traditions. And every religion has a mystic branch, whether it's Christianity or Buddhism or Sufi or whatever it is. And this particular set of insights are from something called Mondo Zen. Mondo Zen is the westernized version of Zen brought to the West by the first Westerner to ever be actually graduated, if you will, as a Zen master, a true Zen master in the traditional Roshi Japanese sense. So he's a Western guy who understands that, we're never going to understand traditional Japanese culture, and so he westernized it. And he has 13 very specific questions to ask yourself. And we run through those 13 very specific questions. They're totally non-denominational. They are completely consistent with Christian belief. They're completely consistent with just morality in general. And they run through a series of questions that lead to some very deep insights about self and purpose and place and meaning. And when your life begins to bloom in terms of purpose and place and meaning, suddenly your autonomic nervous system calms, your discernment increases, your resilience increases, your energy increases. And so that's the reason for the 6 parts. But this little device, because we in the West really don't have a tradition of inward reflection, we don't really understand what that even means. This little device helps us get there in a timely way, rather than like most of us sit in meditation, right? And then peek at our watch. Have I been doing it long enough? What are we doing? And don't feel like, feels like a waste of time to a Westerner. But this is telling us some very specific feedback about, are we where we need to be? And if not, why not? And how to get there.
Yeah.
So that is step 2. So what do you think about this idea of increasing intuition and differentiating between sort of fear and intuition?
Well, I think that for one, the state when you are in fight or flight and kind of in that fearful state, or whether maybe you're not even in a fearful state, maybe it could be anxiety, it could just be racing thoughts, it could be just racing random thoughts throughout the day. It's really exhausting, and it actually takes a lot of energy from you. Your brain uses a lot of energy. And when you're consistently doing that, no wonder you're tired all the time, because your mind is constantly running. When you switch to a more coherent state, when you are, doing that breathing from your heart or being more heart-centered, it's more of like you're getting energy than giving energy. Your brain seems to disperse energy.
The universe is feeding you.
Where your heart, it's like you're getting a different kind of energy, and it leaves you this morning I did 11 minutes, and it just left me just feeling clearer, more energy. I could definitely tell a difference.
Right. And so when you're in fight or flight, your intuition isn't really going energy. And so there's a very interesting guy, Templeton. He's a theoretical physicist, and he has this idea that microtubules in our brain cells, they're in all of our cells, but he's talking specifically about brain cells, are actually quantum receptors. And there's this idea that intelligence is actually an emergent property of the universe, and that his idea, and he's not a slouch when it comes to science, he's a serious scientist at Cambridge, I think it's Cambridge, anyway, his idea is that intelligence actually is out there in the universe, and we somehow transduce it into our brains through quantum mechanisms that are as yet not understood. But in any event, if your mind is racing, how are we going to really identify with these subtle signals coming to us from beyond, right?
How are you going to hear what you need to hear?
Right, exactly.
You're
So
going to be lost in your own thoughts, and you're really going to maybe miss, well, you miss a lot anyway, just not being present, but maybe you're going to miss some of those.
you're primed, when you're in
Intuition.
fight or flight, you're primed to go, oh, she said she didn't like that cookie. Oh my God, that means she doesn't like my cooking. Oh my God, that means she doesn't like me, right? Instead of just, oh, you don't like that cookie? I'm sorry. Well, I do. More for me. You know, it doesn't have to become so deeply personal. Oh my God, everybody hates me because of my cookies. Your cookies are a trivial thing, it turns out. Well, unless you made them for me, and then I better like them. All right, so any other words of wisdom from your session this morning, or any other ideas about this aspect, this part 2 in heart rate variability?
I think this part is, well, obviously it's step 2, and you can't get to step 3 without doing step 2. You can do step 3, but I feel that it has such a heavy importance because, until we can really learn what the difference feels like, in your day-to-day life, you're not going to know whether you are in fight or flight, or are those thoughts coming from a state of critic, or are they more of an intuitive thought?
And many people, they use this, and it's red, and it's red, and it's red, and they're going, oh, it's red, it's red. Well, that's not the way you get there. You get there by going, oh.
Come back to my breath.
Come back to my breath,
heart.
center myself. People say, this is the most frustrating thing. Well, if this is frustrating you, imagine what everything else on earth is doing to you, because this is just a few little LEDs. If this is frustrating you, then every interaction in your life is frustrating you. So learning to relax into this simple device is training to learn to relax into the rest of your life. And that's why we start here, because again, you need to be kind of expert with this before the Mondo training can really deeply affect you. You can start the Mondo training, you can start the insight training right away, but it just becomes a multi-year process instead of a multi-week process.
Yeah, it's like muscle memory.
Yep.
The more you do it, the more it's just automatic.
Absolutely. All right, so that's step 2. We're going to go into step 3, and I've kind of changed the order. We've talked about all of these before, but we're going to talk about the sensory soothing kit next week. And why are we doing this at all? Well, it's because chronic illness breaks these switches in the limbic system, right? So Rebalance to Heal is a major path towards rewiring your brain for health. And that's our plan, is to teach you how to do that, give you all the steps, all the tools. So next week is a sensory soothing kit. And while you're learning to do this, you're building your sensory soothing kit. And sometimes we think we've got it nailed, and then we realize that visualizing my significant other isn't the best tool, because sometimes I'm really pissed off at them. Right? However,
That's why I pick trees.
Yeah. They hardly ever piss you off.
Yeah.
I don't know. One jumped right out in front of her son the other day when he was driving.
Yeah.
Well, in the wintertime when he
Yeah.
had no brakes. But however, if you can always visualize your significant other from that very beginning moment and that deep aspect of cherished love, then it can be good. But we're humans, and sometimes it's really hard to do that. So maybe having multiple bits for each sense is a good idea, because maybe that deep love can really bring you out of fight or flight. But maybe another day you need to focus on a tree. All right, so next week is a sensory soothing kit. And this is her invention, so she's going to be talking a lot more next week. I always seem to hog the airwaves, but
Yeah, that's all good.
But we're going to see how it works next week with her invention, because I just think it's pure genius what she's done. So we're going to explore that. And then the week after that, I think we'll kind of skip doing the 5 modifiable lifestyle factors. We've got tons of information about that on our YouTube channel and on this platform. And then we'll go into the Mondo after the sensory soothing. All right.
And
so
this can also be found on the website.
Yep,
Yeah.
this is on the website. In fact, we'll put, probably not right away, but eventually we'll get a link in the description here to that. And you can start using this right away and be building the sensory soothing kit as you're using this, and then doing the 5 modifiable lifestyle factors as you're doing this. And then that takes long enough that after, month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it takes you to really get good at getting into coherence, then you're really ready to start doing the insight training. All right. We will see you next week, same time, same channel. So 10 a.m. Central Time on Thursday, talking about our sensory soothing kit. Talk to you then. And hello, Heike, by the way.
Oh, good morning.
Yeah,
See
anybody
if there's
else?
any questions or anything.
I don't see any. All right, bye.
Bye.